We'll begin by opening the main AZMAT System program file. Go to the right folder. AZMAT System can run from any device, USB stick, or from your hard disk, or from your any network directory. So this is the main program file, AZMAT System.azmat.xls. There are various subdirectories, as you can see here, AZMAT X12, text, sub, MSC, or BAT. All these folders are necessary. They must be present within AZMAT System as subfolders for AZMAT System to function properly. As you can see, before I open, let's just have a quick look. You can see how many files there are. There are about 100 files. All these system files are ready. AZMAT System checks that each and every file that it expects to use at any time during the session are present. If they're not present, you'll get a message saying AZMAT System cannot run. Similarly, there are various files in other subfolders. There's another folder it requires on the particular disk or drive you're using. For example, in this case, I'm using on a USB stick, F drive. It also requires a folder called AZMAT from there. So we will get to that. That's where your user files are stored. So let's begin here by opening the main program file, azmat.xls. Open always as read-only. It asks for the password, which is very simple to begin with here, because you will be provided all the passwords to all system and user files. So it's asking me for the system password. If I don't enter the correct password, AZMAT System simply will not begin. So I'll enter the correct one for now. You will be provided with the actual password to begin with, but you can always change it at any time you wish. Click OK. And now it's coming on here asking me for the user ID, which is two-letter ID for you or for anybody else using the same machine. Because the AZMAT System was designed for enterprise-wide use, so there could be dozens or even hundreds of users on the same network. So each particular user has to use two unique letters. I'm using AA. Okay, and my own password, which is simply 4-digit. System is opening. Now it's open the main AZMAT System data file. You have this file. Again, this particular area called AZ in here is necessary. You will find later on as you're using it why there are different areas and what they are. I'll explain it to you later. Okay, so here is a message saying AZMAT System is now ready. Please select the required command either from AZMAT menus JK, X, G, M, U, Z, Y, N, or from any Excel menus. So I click OK. I'll get another message here after this. Because in Excel, there is some limit in how much information you can use in one particular cell. So I couldn't put it all in one. That's why I've split the command in two different messages here. To see and or use any of the AZMAT System, AZMAT menus or commands, click Add-ins situated to the right of the developer. Then you'll see that the rightmost of the Excel command bar. After you click OK to this message, click the down arrow situated on right of the required menu, then click on the required command. So you will have here, as soon as I click OK, I will have finished with my system opening procedure. It'll enter add-in here, and then you'll notice when you click the down arrow, you will see the other Excel menus added in. So there, click that, see here, OK, add-ins there. So if I want to use any of the Excel menus, I'll have to click that. But just before I do, you might have noticed that it has maximized this particular file. So I'm just going to click that arrow to make it for the previous shape. And now you can see all these Excel icons as well. Before we get into the add-ins, you can see that if I click add-in, all these Excel menus are shown here. I can go in, click the down arrow to any of these, and it'll show these are all Excel commands specifically created by me. There are over 200 commands. Before we get into that, let's have a quick look at these various menus here, many icons. I have taken from Excel system the most common commands, which I particularly find very, very useful to have, rather than having to go through each individual home, insert, page layout, formula data, and so on, or even to remember where they are. So in here, as you can see, the Excel there, this particular one, you can see it should open a new file, or in here, open a file. It's not actually coming up with all these what the actual icons mean, save, save as, and so on. I'm just going to here, let's just click one thing here. For example, this one, open. See open menu there. I'll just click cancel to cancel. I don't particularly want to open any file right now, but those particular, all those menus are there. Very useful. I'll go through it in one of the tutorials, how to add up where they are and how you can simply add them all here. Extremely useful, but you don't have to put them if you don't want to. Right, let's go and look at the Excel menus. So I click the add-in, and now I'll just go through here, say J menu. All these letters I've used just different meanings. K is for curve menu. I know it's K. Curve starts with C, but I've used K because I need C for a different, particularly didn't want to clash with the Excel commands. So here we have the J menu, AZMAT System main menu. You can activate or open AZMAT data file. This is the AZMAT data file. Every user of AZMAT System has their own data file, specifically for them. So if it's already open, it will simply activate. But if it's not open, it will check if it's open or not, and then open it if necessary. You can change your own password. You can display details of any user. Depending on your level of the password level you have, you can change other people's user level as well. For example, in an enterprise system, the manager perhaps will have the ability to change the passwords of any user, or even ban them from using if they want to. You can do all that, and you will learn how to do it in AZMAT System. So you can display details of any user, change password of any user, add user to AZMAT System, add a particular new user, so they can use AZMAT System, and you can also remove user from AZMAT System. Reset AZMAT System, save files beginning with user ID. So it will basically close down the existing Excel, the AZMAT System session, but it will save all files beginning with the current user ID. So in my case, it will save all files beginning with AA, because that's what I'm using. If your ID was, if you've chosen something else, I don't know what, DK, so it'll save all files beginning with DK and so on. Then we have Q for quit AZMAT. Save files beginning with user ID. Again, when you quit or reset, it will save your files, because in case you have forgotten to save something you've worked on. All other files it will not save. Quit AZMAT, do not save any files. This is sometime you may wish to do so if you've messed up your files, everything. You want to start again, use that command. Quit AZMAT, do not save any files. View AZMAT help file. This will work in the earlier versions of AZMAT System. When Windows 10, they've changed the system, so you'll have to open it. I'll show later on how you can view the AZMAT System file. Now, there are various calculation models. So this is one, and there's the main one, asset swap model, bond calculation model, floating rate notes, convertible bonds, bond warrants, equity warrants, currency warrants, and commodity warrants. And lastly, here, this way we can see, although it's got more commands, you'll see down if we go down, money market instruments, yield basis. So if I go down, money market, example CDs, yield basis, 1 coupon. Again, another money market instrument, FRCSDs, price basis. And then yet again, money market instrument, example bills, discount basis. This is when you want to learn the investment banking calculations. You will see the difference of each of these models and the calculations, which will go through this if you want to learn that. The beauty of AZMAT System is you do not have to learn something you do not wish to. So if you're not going to use you're not interested in investment banking calculations or working in an investment bank, you don't need to actually learn all the formula or anything. But you may want to still learn how the AZMAT System is designed, how those particular calculation models work in. So this is the J menu. So if the way it works, if you click again, it'll disappear. Click there, and actually, if I go and click on another menu, then the previous J menu disappears. Now we have here on the K menu. So in the K menu is the rates environment menu. This is the rates one, again, in calculating an investment bond, because this is designed specifically for investment banks. You'll see later on all these commands, what they are. I will go through each and every command with various tutorials. So rates environment menu is open the curve for view. Curve is basically using a rates curve. So it's a file, bond, various bond calculations, various rates. So it's called curve. That's why I've called this menu using K. So open curve for view. You can open a particular rates file or curve for view. If that particular curve is already open, it'll close it and reopen it. So whatever changes you made, not save, simply close it and then reopen it as it was prior to opening it last time. Save the curve changes. Once you've made some changes, you want to save it, you'll use that file. Even if you didn't, if you say close current curve command, without using the save command, it'll actually detect if you made any changes, ask you whether you want to save it or abandon any changes, and do whatever you ask for, whatever you instruct it to, rather. Close the current file. Do not save any changes. Now, this time you have actually specifically asked it to close it. Do not save any changes, so it will do just that. Open curve for rates edit. Incidentally, it actually won't just do that. It'll ask you, it'll give you a chance, just in case you may have pressed it by mistake to use the command. So it'll ask, do you really want to? Yes. If you say yes, okay, it'll do so. If you cancel the command, it'll cancel it. Open curve for rates edit. When you want to change just the prices of the rates of a bond curve, that's what you'll use. When you want to change everything, not just the rates, but other things as well, then you'll use. You'll notice the difference between all these commands as we go through these, as you learn more and more about AZMAT System. Right now, I'm just introducing you to various commands within the AZMAT System. curve file calc. It'll quickly calculate the particular curve file if the calculation mode was turned off. If it's on, obviously automatically it will do so anyway, so you won't need that. Reset the curve file. Sometimes you may have made a mistake and really messed up the file. This command, then you'd use this command rather than save it. Use the reset curve. It'll abandon all the changes you made. But all these commands, still they will ask, you'll get a chance. He'll ask you whether you really want to do that. And once you confirm, then it'll simply abandon all these changes you made and put the curve, that file, back to its original position. This is very useful, even if you have actually made changes, save the file, but AZMAT System will restore the original one before you made any changes. It will restate the curve to the file as it was before you opened it the very first time in that session. Status of current curve file. It'll tell you, notify you basically whether any other user is using it for either file edit or rates edit. If they are, then you cannot open it for file edit. So rather than trying to open it file edit, you can use that to quickly check if someone else is using it. Also, it will tell you when the last time someone had edited it. Status of any curve file. So this was the one, if you actually have a curve file open, it'll tell you about that. This one, it'll open about any curve file that is used on the in that particular company or yourself, you're using it. Whether the file is open for race edit, file edit, or for view, whatever. And who had last edited it. So AZMAT System is very, very comprehensive. So without actually opening the file, you can check it. Change to AZMAT program directory. Now, normally when you open the AZMAT System, as we hear at this particular point, when it opens the data file, you may remember I had initially pointed out to you that all your data files are saved in the directory, or for particular, in this case, I'm using it from a USB stick F drive. So F:\\AZMAT. So that's your user directory. Whereas AZMAT program directory is a different one, which has the other subfolders, 5 subfolders, where we open the AZMAT System program. So you can quickly change it to that if you wish, or change to the user directory as well later. Update feature dates. This is again on the investment banking calculation side. You'll notice how the rates, when they change every quarter, the new feature dates are used. So you can use this command to actually specify that it should change. We will go through all these commands, each and every command later on. Open live file for view. You can use also not only the ordinary files which are not live, but also live files as well for view. So open live file for edit, save changes to live file, edit, and live file edit, do not save changes. And then reset the edit status of live file. So all these commands, the whole lot, if you notice, they're all to do with the rates, curves. So that's why it's called K menu, is for race environment menu there. So all these AZMAT System commands are here to open particular calculation model, or, and we go down, there are more, 12 calculation models. AZMAT System swap model. Swap model is the main one. It's the star model. and all the other system-based commands here. K menu was the rates, X menu, present value to calculate present value, yield, present value and yield, internal rate of return, Macaulay's duration, duration if yield curve is not flat. You will learn all these terms, what they mean later on. 6 days for holidays. So if you have certain dates, you can ask AZMAT System to really quickly check it and remove any days which fall on a holiday, not just at the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, but also on any holiday for the particular currency that is being used. For example, in this case, is US dollar. So American holidays will be, if any of these days fall on that, and any American holidays which you have defined somewhere, or if they are in public holidays, it will remove those and take it to the non-bank holiday date. Again, this is not just that, there are various different ways of doing. Either it can move forward or backwards the following working day or previous working day. And we'll learn into that later. So you'll learn a lot about investment banking, various terminology and what it means and why you'd use certain things later on. Then there's the discount factors. Again, in order to calculate the present value, you'd use that. It's very, very comprehensive topic. So I'm going to stop here just for a second and just go through here. For example, discount factors in here. You notice here on this AZMAT System data file, you have here discount factor methods A, B, O, M, D, F. All these mean different things. And here you define here, for example, which particular discount factor you are interested in. In this case, I'm interested in the M and B, mid and the bid. So we'll see later on what they mean, why we are using which one, and how and when you'll use what. So that's X menu. This time, let's quickly go through here. I won't go through each single command because you might be getting bored on this here, but just show you here. All these commands are here, and then more, you can go down here up until there. This is the G menu. So we'll go to look at the M menu. G menu is for bond and FRN calculations menu. All these bond and FRN calculations are here. M menu is miscellaneous calculation models menu. So various calculation models, they're not, whereas SSO model has got its own Z menu, but here other calculation models, you use this. Like close current model, close all the models open, save as new transaction deal, load old transaction deal. So they will work with various calculation models, not just one specific one. Save over old transaction deals. So if you had made, you'll see later on that if you made some changes to it, you open an old transaction, make some changes, and can save it over as old on the old one, or you can save the new, the changed transaction as a new one. All this will make sense as you get to learn more and more about investment banking and the actual programming part of it later on. Reset the transaction deal database, resets it back to what it was before you open that particular calculation model. Load or create transaction deal database. So it'll either load, if it's already you have created a database, transaction database, it will open that one, load it, or it'll create a new one for the very first time if you have not created any database file. You do not actually create, system will create it automatically very first time you use that particular command. So you don't have to worry about what to put in and how. It will have it already in the system when you first start using this particular command. Reset or clear all input. As it says, prepare for cache flows. Again, you will see what it all means later when we actually start using these. So that was M menu. U is for utility menus. And utilities menu, save the AZMAT data files. For example, wherever I am here, I can just use the particular, after made some changes here, added some this and that here and there, whatever I want to save it, I can just click the, I can save the AZMAT data, it will save it and put the date and time when it was saved. So always this here, this particular here, you'll see that in here as you go along. I'm just going to come out of this here, click anywhere, and you'll see that that was the time it was last saved as AZ date time. Whereas this is actually when it was calculated the last time. In this case, it was calculated and saved at the same time. That's why it's exactly the same. So if I say, right, save, I'll use the utility menu, save AZMAT data file. Although I haven't made any changes, I'm asking you to save it. So it's now 2nd of July to, it's about, well, you'll see the time now, as it will give me the time there saved. It's the 3rd of July now, we've gone over midnight now. So it's at 12:33 a.m. on 3rd of July, 2017. This is because it's all UK-based date system, so I'm afraid we use using the numbers here. I know in America they use the other way around. They use the month first and then the date and then the year. But hopefully by using the actual month as in letters rather than number, it'll be less confusing. But you can change it all that as well if you wish when you're using it. So let's continue with the menus here. We'd use the utilities menu, save data file. You saw that it's changed the date and time there, but left. This is only for the calculation. Whenever you use some calculation, it'll change, and you'll know that at what time you've calculated what. Right, let's have a look at the others. So override original file. So whatever file you're using it will override and save over it, the original version. Change the ini file. So you have the initial file called, every user has their own initial file where they have their settings for various parameters specific to them. And you can change that, open it at any time and change that. We'll see that later on. All these commands you see in these whole 200 commands, I'll go through each and every command in various these tutorials. So we won't go through those right now. So change the unit files, check if any CF cash flow or discount factor date is before today, on off. So you can check that. You can set it to always check it before or not. For example, here, if I come out of it now, you can see here, this is 28th of July, first date, which is fine. It's not before today. But here, it is very old date here, 2010, 11, 12. So if I use that command here, it will tell me that is so, whereas here it will not, obviously. So if I go out here, back to the, check if any cash flow date is before today, on or off. So when it's checking that, it'll do that automatically, not just that the date falls on a weekend or not. Determine the cash flow discount factor dates area on off. You can actually design your own on a new, particularly brand new file, and it will see, you can define it that way using that command. Use, or you can use it manually. use control keys to place results on off. So I can use, for example, Control V for calculating present value, or Control B for calculating both present value and the yield. These are the two most common commands. Present value is used in investment banking. They use perhaps 95% of the time present value. Yield is calculated less often, but they both go together. So if I want to use the control, if I press Control B, B for Bravo, it will calculate the present value and the yield in wherever I have got my cursor on. So if I place my cursor there, two cells, it'll place the two values there, present value and yield. If I use Control V, it'll use only present value and the Control Y for yield. So we'll go back to that menu again, using the utilities menu, have a quick look at that. So whether to use control keys or not. You can turn it off or on. If it's off, obviously those V or B, Control B mean nothing. It won't do that. But and the results will be placed in here in the actual results area. This is the specifically provided for this area is always all data files. It expects this area to be defined and present. If it's not, it will tell you that it's not. Now, so we've checked that. Now display results on off. So whether to display actual results on in a message box, alert message box or not. If you don't want it, it'll just place there. If you turn it on, it will show there, and also of course place it there. Screen update on off. So while doing various Excel commands, the AZMAT system, various commands, opening various files, doing these calculations. If you want to see various files, how different files are open on and off, you can actually turn that on. If you don't want to see it, you can turn it off. Normally it will be off. And various extra screen messages. If you need some more help, so it'll actually, for example, if you say, I want to use the discount factor date one area, all you have to do is here in the discount factor areas, discount factor results, one, you put it there, or the date, and here cash flow date, for example, if you're using various cash flow dates. You can just by putting number one, it will say it'll use the cash flow date one. Or if I put 2 here, it will use the cash flow date as long as it's already defined this whole date. If it's defined as cash flow date 2, it will use that. If I define this as cash flow date 1, it will use that. Or it will, again, if you don't define it, it'll automatically go on checking until it comes with a blank cell. And it'll take that as that end of that. So CFC stands for cash flow, CF, DF discount factor. So just by saying where you want the results, you don't actually have to show it where. You can just by putting the, for example, discount factor results, DF results, means 1 to 9. If I put 1 and if I define that, it will automatically place the results there. DF date, weekends, 1 equal to avoid Saturday, Sunday. And then again here, these special days. This is, notice the date is not in the, it's a date array. So it's actually, all these days they have, for example, if I copy that for 28th of July, so if I say copy that particular one and I place somewhere, so if I say copy and I put it here and I save it as paste a special one because I want to save it as values there, okay. You'll see that it's showing that as 28th of July. But if I change that format of that particular cell, or here, because I already have that as I'll repeat that here. For example, I'll say right here, the spatial value. See what happens here. The reason you saw here in the date format, same as that, although I saved it as values, you notice that I saved as paste spatial. I didn't say paste, as I used paste spatial, but because here I have formatted all these here, because they are dates, as this particular date format, this whole area. That's why it's even value is being shown there. Whereas here, this cell here is just a general area. So, and when I said use the paste spatial command, it put it as a number. So all the dates are actually, Excel uses particular number. So 42944 is Friday, 28th of July, 2017. So if I actually change this number, if I change it, you'll see, for example, here, if I change this number here, 42945, if I say 945, enter that, and I actually copy that, and I'll copy that in here. So see what happens. Copy in here. The format is that, or or I can just put it just above that, same as I've done here. This is 28th July. If I copy that in here, so paste spatial value, Saturday, 29th of July. Notice this is 42944. I added one, just one above, one more to that, 42945. So 42945 is 1 day ahead. So the actual date Excel uses for 2017 would be 42945. Similarly, all these dates. So you see the dates, they are here just for you. Behind the this in actual calculations, whatever is doing, Excel does not say or use that. It actually uses a number, much simpler and straightforward. So use the escape key to come out of it, cancel it, safer, better. And now actually I can actually let's delete that. I don't particularly want that to be staying there. I'll leave these here for now. It doesn't really matter. So let's continue with where we were before we got distracted slightly. So using control keys, that's what I was showing there. Let's display results on off, screen update on off, our extra screen messages, more helpful messages will be shown on the screen for the commands you are using. So for example, if you don't have to, if you're not sure how to define a particular area, it will actually come up with a message box prompting you to enter, to actually show where the results or where the discount factor date area or cash flow date area should be, and so on. But once you know how to use it, don't you keep it turned off. You don't want it to slow down your system, because if you really know what you're doing, you can just use these numbers here to define the results area and the source area and the results area, and just say Control B, I'll have the results there. You'll see that later as I'll show you. AZMAT System version number, it shows what's new, as new calculation, new, and the changes are made to AZMAT System. I was using that particular one, may still use it perhaps, but in this particular case, may not. Once you have got this system file, I don't expect I'll be using that to show new the changes made, because we don't expect it to keep updating it very often. But we'll leave that as it is now, for now. Change to user's own directory. So this is your own directory. So if you're using AZMAT System for drive F, so it'll be F:\AZMAT. That will be the user's own directory, whereas the change to AZMAT program directory will be either the where the Excel program is installed. If it is on your hard drive, drive C, it has to be under the Excel as a subdirectory of the Excel folder. So it'll be wherever the Excel is, then underneath in that folder you'll have AZMAT, and then expects all the other subfolders, but the program directory is that. AZMAT System query, text files directory, bond database files directory, they all store different files are stored in different directories. You'll know all that later on. Show you. We'll go through the whole lot later. Change the volatility and correlation files directory. Again, these are used in risk management, and so they have separate files. Otherwise, as you notice, the main program file has got more than 100 system files. We don't want getting clogged up with all hundreds and hundreds of other files. So each of these, your files are in that user directory. The query text files are separate. The bond database files are separate, and the volatility and correlation risk management files are separate. So that even here, these files have become so many, as you'll see when we start using these commands. There'll be literally hundreds. So, but at least they are in different areas of AZMAT System. Close the current file. Do not save changes. So once you know, you can use it from utilities menus as well. Same command is also on, if you remember here in the K menu, if I go, so close current file, do not save changes. If I go through here, I have here close current file, do not save changes. Because this is for in the curve one you're using, but we may want to use it for any file. And then so you'll use that. Whichever file you're using in AZMAT System, you can use that to make sure that the original is not disturbed. Original is as it was before you open that particular file. Check but note that all these commands here will happen if you use one of the AZMAT System commands to open a particular file. If you use the Excel command, file open, and then make changes to it, and then say, restore the original after you've saved it, then AZMAT System can't do it. You have to have opened the original file within the AZMAT System using AZMAT System commands to open a particular file. For example, here in the race file, open the curve for view, open the curve for race edit or file edit. Then AZMAT System will restore the file even after you've made changes and save the file on your hard disk or wherever you were saving. It will restore the original version before you made the changes. So make sure any of the Excel, the AZMAT System commands you open in Excel while you're using Excel and AZMAT System, use the Excel, don't use the Excel command, use the AZMAT System commands to open. Very, very important to open the curve for race edit or file edit. Then AZMAT System will be able to restore the original version if you made a mess and you want to go back to the original version. Let's go back to here, utilities menu where we were. So there are different directories of folder. Before people started calling it folder, we used to call it directory. So it's the same thing. But and later now, most people call it directory, they call it folder. But here, if you see dir, that's what it is, directory or folder. So change to bond database, right? You'll change that, change to AZMAT System. So whichever directory you say, if you're not sure, you're opening a program file, or you want to see AZMAT System files, you change to that. And then again, you can change it back. Again, all in the utilities menu, U. So this is the one, close the current file, do not save changes. So whatever file it is, it doesn't have to be the curve file from K menu, right? Any file within AZMAT System you're using, and you don't want to make any changes. You don't want to save any changes, sorry. You may have made changes, but you do not want to save the changes. Use that. Use that command. Check dates for holidays. So for example, here I can select these dates and say, right, check these, use this command, check this for holidays. So use that, and if any dates are Saturday, Sunday, or one of the bank holidays, depending on the what is specified in the user area here, you'll see that here later on. Then you'd use that to that. Might be just for real life use or just for fun. View AZMAT help file. Again, from here, and earlier versions of Excel, you can use that straight away and use it. In Windows 10, you will have to use a different way of. I'll go through that later on, show you how you can do that. This is not because anything wrong with the help file, it's the Microsoft have changed the help engine, which is now used, have to use the older version ones, cannot be opened in Windows 10. Windows 8, up to 80 days, you can still use it, but slightly you have to download a certain file from Microsoft before you can do that. But there is a simple way you can use. You can see that. I'll show you later on. Z menu. This is for the asset swap menu. If you notice here, we have in the J menu all the different calculation models. If I go down here, you can see the asset swap model, bond calculation model, and so on. So we have 4 plus 4 plus 4. So it's 12 calculation models. But the asset swap model is the main one. This is equivalent to all the rest 11 calculation models put together in terms of functionality and how sophisticated and useful it is. You'll see. So let's go, and so that's why asset swap model has got its own menu commands. The whole menu, or the Z menu, is for asset swap model. In earlier versions of Excel, the bond calculation model, you could define a menu. So Z menu would be as soon as you change from asset swap model to another file, the bond menu will become unshaded, so you cannot actually use it on another file. But in here, in later versions of Excel, it's just that functionality is not there anymore in very later versions of Excel. So the menu is there. Of course, the AZMAT system itself will check it. If it's not the correct file, it will tell you so, and not actually use the command just because it's there. But in earlier versions of Excel, physically the menu itself would be disabled, so you would not be able to use it. So when the Excel the asset swap model is open, all these commands apply. We'll go through that later on. So once it's open, you can close it. Even you can close it even if that particularly you're not actually on the asset swap model. You can use it commands while you're on data file, for example, or any other file. Calculate the bond market price. Now again, you learn some very specialist commands and terminology within the AZMAT system. So if you're thinking of working in an investment bank, or if you're currently working in an investment bank, it's an extremely useful system for you to have AZMAT system. You will learn a lot just by using AZMAT system and using the actual, reading the help file and just looking at the system here, how it is used by the bond traders in these international investment banks all over the world. So for calculate the bond market price, you use swap margin. So if you don't, at this point, you don't know, but when you have finished attending all these different videos, you have seen these various videos of the tutorial videos, you will learn all these, what they are, what they mean, and you will see what it means. Calculate net profit loss, and 1 basis point move, and so on. Derive market price database, derive swap margin database, derive price margin database. Save as new transaction deal. So when you open a particular transaction, change some things for it, then save it as a new transaction deal. You may remember I also had this here under another one here. So let's have a look at this. Was it the G or M? In the M, I put it here as miscellaneous models menu. So this applies to various other calculation models other than the asset swap model. But you can also use it in the asset swap model as well if you want to, because the command is the same. Save as new transaction deal, load all, or save all transaction. But the Z menu is specifically for the asset swap model. So it's the same commands. So it's used in both here for asset swap model, but also applies to the miscellaneous menu in here, where it's apply other calculation model might be open. For example, the bond model. Then we have here reset that transaction deal database, load create that. We've gone through this, reset the asset swap model. Again, if you made a mess of it, all you have to do is just use that command. It'll simply close that particular model without saving it and restore the original model. Calculate or display the cash flows. Again, you'll see that how when we actually are using it, how you may find it fun, even just to watch, as it's actually calculating it, how it's done, if you like, in a kind of slow motion. View or change credit charges table. Again, it's a very specialist terminology. It's used within the, but in the particularly in the asset swap model. And here you'll see what it means later on. I won't go through this right now. Prepare customer's cash flow report. The AZMAT system prepares when a particular swap is made from one bond to the other. It's one is a bank side and a customer side. So it prepares the cash flows from the customer side, whereas this prepares from the bank side, which is different. Bank's view and a customer's view. So there's a buyer and a seller always, and there are two different prices, as you know, for anything. From the point of view of a bank, it'll be different cash flow. From the point of view of customer, it'll be different cash flow because it's referring to different bond, or you'll see later what it means. Prepare the investment, the interest rate swap purchase tickets, interest rate swap sale tickets. They're actually the whole A4 size different report, kind of report, if you like. It's called purchase ticket or sale ticket. And they calculate the bond yield. Separate commands. So all these are asset swap menu. This is the risk management menu. All the risk management commands are here under the Y menu. So we go here, risk management menu, volatility files, short overview, long overview. You'll note the difference between when we actually are using these commands, what they mean. Correlation files, again, short overview, long overview, and so on, all volatility for currency or commodity. All the correlations for the currency or commodity. So you can use it very large database file and pick out the correlations or volatility for a particular currency or commodity as specified by you. Same instrument correlation for currency or commodity. All instruments correlation, again for currency or commodity. Same instrument correlation for all currency or commodity. These are all various reports it produces on the screen and saves it as well for you on the file. All instrument correlation for all currency or commodities. It's a very, very extensive report. This will be for all the instruments and for all the currencies and commodity. Open previously created AZMAT query file. Change to that particular directory. Change to bond directory. Change to volatility and correlation files directory. You may remember we had this under the utilities menu as well. All these changing different directories. See, if I just go there, change to a user directory, program directory, query, database, correlation file. So in there, I have these query files, change to database directory and multi-correlation, the user directory, but instead of program directory, I think I have here query text files directory. Prepare volatility files, prepare the correlation files. Again, you will see that what these commands mean, what they actually do when we use them. Get single volatility data, get single correlation, risk report. This is a large report which you will notice when we what it is when we start using it. Save the risk reports in database files directory. Save risk reports in user's own directory. So you can choose, you can specify where it actually should save the files, either in the databases or in your own particular user's own directory. So notice this is very useful because this system was designed for several users. For example, in an investment bank and enterprise-wide, where there could be dozens or hundreds of users even. So rather than saving in a database files directory, which will be the same one for all the users, those particular users may want to save it in their own directory, so they will be able to quickly get to those files if they wish and use it at any time without other people having access to it. So it's their own, that's why there is a distinction here. So that's the risk management menu. Why? Lastly, the N menu. Notice all these menus are actually in Excel, but they are AZMAT System menus. All AZMAT commands are up here, all the top there, or through these, you can use them. But AZMAT System commands are within these 9 menus. Lastly, this N menu is the user menu. In here, these commands I've created especially for you, the user, how to add your own menus to Excel. Not necessarily in AZMAT system, you can use it in an ordinary Excel system and have your own menu. So what I've done here is, you'll notice that you've got here, for example, simple, turn the calculation manual, turn calculation to manual, or turn the calculation to automatic, change columns to numbers. So for example, you can do that right now. Let's see. As you can see, column numbers, I like using column numbers as 1 to 3 rather than ABC, because then you have to use $A to instead of using just 1 for column number, so on. So I prefer numbers. And so in here, you can actually have the commands. So right now you can see there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Numbers. I'll say, go down N menu, and I'll say, change the columns to ABC. There, change to ABC. I can change it back to numbers. So I go down here, change the columns to numbers. Back to numbers. So if you go back here, these commands from here, all these from there 1 to 9, they are all in Excel macro commands. They're Excel macro commands. And these here from A to J are also Excel macro commands, but they are, at present, they are just blank for you to add your own commands to it. So I have the beginning of the command, for example, the end of the command, and you just have to enter your actual command. For example, change column to numbers or A. You can copy my commands if you like and put in there, or your own, any command here. And when you choose that particular command, whichever you've used, it will simply do that. So what I've done is actually given a frame. The whole frame is done, all these here from there to there. And all you have to do is enter the actual command in between and not have to learn the whole menu. It's already attached to a menu and all. So you learn step by step within AZMAT system how to create your own menus. And to begin with, you'll be able to simply add your own commands to any of these in between, and you'll be shown. I'll show you later where they are and how you can actually add the commands from here to there. So these are Excel macro commands, I call it. Down here, these commands are Excel VBA commands. And here, if I go down, you'll notice that here, from there, the same commands I'd use up there, calculation manual, turn it, calculation automatic, or the change the column numbers, they also work here as well. But this time, we're using the VBA commands. So for example, at present, as you notice, remember, I've still got the back to the numbers here as I had before. I can go in there, and this time using the VBA instead. These I had used before, columns to numbers, or ABC, using the Excel macro commands. I'm now going to use the Excel VBA command, change columns to ABC. There, ABC, column numbers change. And now I can again use the columns back to numbers, but I don't have to use the VBA. I can use just as easily the macro command. Here, change columns to numbers, back to that. So both commands work exactly this. The actual command is different, obviously, in when you're using Excel macro commands and the Excel VBA commands, but the end result is the same. So they are both interchangeable. You don't have to, for example, once you've use one of the VBA commands, you can use the macro command to undo it if you like. This one, for example, message box command, VBA command, icon style 64. Various icon styles in there, you'll notice. And so it will use, you can use that. You'll see that I will go through that later on. But in the Excel macro, display alert command type 2, alert command type 3. So it's different. So instead of type 2 or 3, here they use, Excel uses icon style 64 or 48 and so on. But it means the same thing, as you'll notice later on. Here, create Excel for macro workbook. You'll notice that in later versions of Excel, you cannot actually create an Excel macro workbook using Excel commands. It just doesn't let you. The command isn't there. But I've created that command for you, so you can use the AZMAT system to create Excel macro workbook if you want to. Or in here, if I go here, display and remove, all these commands, they are actual macro commands. But here, I'm using the Visual Basic VBA, Visual Basic for Applications, VBA, to create the Excel for macro workbook. If you're using older version of Excel, earlier versions, I should say, you don't need that, because when you actually start using Excel commands, it will be there. The command is there for you to create. But in later versions of Excel, for example, in this particular version I'm using right now, the command is taken off. You're not given that chance or choice, I should say rather, to create. But in this case, using AZMAT system, it will create a workbook for you, Excel for macro workbook. And then you can start using it. And Excel will quite happily still use those commands in that newly created Excel for macro workbook for you by AZMAT system. Command, now again, after here, so in the VBA commands, I have used, as you notice here, for example, here, beginning here, I have used numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 9, and then start using A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. I've taken off the letter I. I'll explain to you why later. And here, and also I'll explain to you why I'm not using the letter O as well later. You'll see. So we're using A to J. All these commands are Excel macro commands. Blank command for you to enter just the actual command there, and then you can start using it in Excel system. And then next step will be for you to actually create your whole menu as well. I'll go through that later on, how to create your own menus in Excel. And then, so whenever you have Excel, even outside of AZMAT system, you'll be able to use it in the add menu, add-ins, and your own menus. So in here, the commands here up to there, as you can see, create Excel. These are specific commands in VBA, Excel VBA, which I've created for you. Thought it'd be useful, and you can see to demonstrate as well the difference between different icon style. And then I have left 5 TUVWX as sample commands for you with a simple They're just command framework, if you like. You'll have the beginning of the macro VBA macro and the end, and you just have to enter your own command to begin with to learn. And that's how you learn. You see, these are very, very simple commands I use. Whereas some of my commands go into hundreds of lines. These are just one line, possibly two or three. So this is the end menu. So we have got J menu, all these Excel, the AZMAT system commands. K, just going through it again, just to remind you, Excel environment menu. So basically this means is when you're using Excel, like in Excel data file, you could use these commands there, or you can use the actual control commands as well. In some versions of Excel, you may not be able to, but in definitely early versions of Excel, you can use those fairly easily. G menu, bond and FR, and calculation menu, again, scroll down to the end to see there are more commands. M, as you can see, there's no scroll bar, means that is it. That is the last command. And using these to separate different, if you think of it like a paragraph, different version, different commands for different areas, if you like. So for this, for example, all the changing to different directories are all here, directory or folder. Remember, dir, short for directory, same as folder. So if it says change to user's own directory, it means change to user's own folder. If you know folder is better, easier to know. If you're familiar with folder rather than directory. So I'm using these, as you can see, lines to separate the commands so they're easier to see. So you don't have to go through, look through all about like 20 commands in one go. Z menu, whereas all these here, they all relate, they're all kind of together. And then these are different report files. So I've separated them out here. And this is calculate the bond yield. It's completely different to all the other things. So I'm using differently used. So you'll notice when we get to SSOP model. Risk management menu, all the risk management commands, as you can see, scroll bar is there. Do go down to the beginning and various different reports. Risk report, just 2 words there, risk report. But this report is very, very large. It can take maybe even half an hour to prepare, depending on the size of the database file. So it's a very, very comprehensive report. Depending on what you have specified, what you want, you'll notice that later when we actually use it. And this end menu, user menu, as I mentioned before, if we go by scroll bar, so the first half up to there, see, I've used that to separate. These are all above this line here, above this line, all Excel macro commands. And below the line here, these are all Excel VBA commands. So the sample commands for you to start using it and to learn how to use your own, to create your own menus. These are it just says command, and I've used a very short description here in this one. So it will display, you'll see later on what they mean. And similarly for macro, Excel macro commands, the short descriptions come here. And a much larger description is used elsewhere, which in earlier versions of Excel, it will actually show as you move through each command. here, but in later versions it doesn't actually show. Microsoft taken the scroll, the status bar for other purposes, so you can't see it. Right, so this is the introduction to AZMAT System, various menus. Hopefully you have not found it too boring. I know it's not a very interesting topic maybe for some people, but remember, all the Excel menu commands are here available for you. Home, there, insert, page layout. This is Excel 2010 or Excel version 14. They're all available to you. But some of these, you might notice that I've actually, I've taken off like Protect Sheet, Protect Workbook up here. So for you to use these icons, so it's quick to get to, rather than having to go through and find out, remembering where they are, or whether they are in the View menu, or are they in the Formula menu, or they are in the Home menu, or the File menu. These are the most common commands I found I need when I'm using Excel, and including the actual developer levels. So for example, in developer commands, there are when you're actually developing Excel macros or VBA, Visual Basic, or macros, and you'll see you need that particular menu in Excel. But you can also use the within AZMAT System, one of these icons you'll see to get to quickly there. I obviously can't include every single command, but I have used most useful commands from the entire Excel system. And in one of the tutorials, I'll go through and show you how you can actually add these menus, icons, to your own, to create your own Excel useful command set. And the add-ins is only added here when you've actually your own menus. This is only in later versions of Excel. Earlier versions of Excel, it would actually add the menus, like for example, this J, K, X, G, and Y, all these lots, right after the last menu, whatever the Excel last menu is, which was not developer, for example. You would have those added there, the letters that. We will go through that as well later on. I'll go through the Excel earlier versions as well at our future tutorial, because Excel has got, in this AZMAT system, can work, as you may know, from any version of Excel, from Excel version 5 up to Excel version 16, which is the Excel 2016 or Microsoft Office 2016. So Excel system, AZMAT system will automatically detect which version of Excel is currently being used, and then will use the appropriate menu. So there are 3 different menus, the 3 different ways to create Excel menus. So in here, the way you see this now, this is for later versions of Excel. Earlier versions of Excel, it'll be up here, as I mentioned before, not add in, but they'll simply be the letters J, K, X, G here, and you could just simply go through those simply straightforward. But in later versions of Excel, they are placed here under the add-ins. You have to go through there, click that, then the menus are shown. But I'll go through and show you how to create your own menus in all 3 different ways of creating using within Excel system. So if you're using Excel version 5 or or 7, 6, or 10, 11, 12, whatever. Different ways of creating. So there are 3 different menu systems within Excel system. And we'll go through the whole lot in another tutorial. So this one was to actually just go through, show you the various menus where they are. We haven't actually did any calculations at all. That will be, we'll leave it for another day, because this system is slowly, we will probably begin, we'll stop it in a few minutes. I'll just go through this data system here, the AZMAT data file. Now in here, for example, here, you notice very quickly we'll go through this later on properly. But all AZMAT systems must have the AZMAT AZ area, AZMAT system data area. It expects that. If you do not have that in your user file, it will actually prompt you to enter for that. But you can use files without it, but not these commands, for example, calculate the present value, the yield, and so on. Don't worry about these terminologies, what they are, if it doesn't make sense to you right now. The objective of AZMAT system is not for you, not necessarily force you to learn. You don't have to learn anything you do not wish to. But because the system was designed for investment banks use, so we are using various terminologies of that. But as long as you learn how to create, how to develop computer system, where you're going to use this particular AZMAT system as an example, and we'll go through various commands in a step-by-step mode, and you will see how each particular command is used, when you use different method of doing various things. For example, here you have got the cash flow. As I mentioned earlier on, you can either define a cash flow area. This is, for example, you have a date, and particular amount is either, if it's positive, you receive it, it's negative, you have to pay. So cash flow date 1, and the whole area, cash flow date 1 is not just one date, but the actual dates are these, but the cash flow area would be that. Similarly, cash flow date 2 would be that. And you can specify, instead of actually saying I want this or that, you can just simply enter number 1. So if you have CF date and question mark, means 1 to 99, so you can say CF date 1, define that area as CF date 1, and just enter 1, and it will start using that 1 as the cash flow area 1, the cash flow date area 1. And this here, then it starts here whether you should use the cash flow date from this worksheet or from this workbook. So as you know, within a worksheet, within an Excel workbook, you can have several sheets, several worksheets. So you can specify, either use it from worksheet 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, or particular workbook. Again, by specifying the workbook here, it'll use it automatically. As you will see that every single command I'm talking to you now, I will go through in later on tutorials. And we'll also look at the actual AZMAT system program files. Let's have a quick look at what else is stored here. So if you see here, if I go here, there's only one file. You see a.xlsx, because I'm using Excel version 14, which is Excel 2010. It's using these 4-letter extension. At present, I only have one file to view, but which is not hidden. However, I have other files which are hidden. So if I click that, it'll hide this particular one. But if I click that, unhide, you'll see that these AZMAT System main program file is here hidden, but it is open. It requires that file to be open in order to actually execute your commands. And then various other files, you'll notice that these are all open as well. This is grayed out because there is no more files just up here. If I click that, there will nothing happen because there isn't. When there are more files, you'll see that will be not grayed out. So I have all these other files as well open. These are necessary files. Some are temporary files, some are used for calculating these things, some of holidays checking and so on. We'll go through all these at some other point in the future. But to actually look at any of these files, if you try to unhide, for example, this particular one, it may or may not ask you for a password, depending on whether it is being saved with a the workbook password. Means it will actually, to unhide it, you need that password. All AZMAT System files are saved with passwords. So this whole system, so that the user, ordinary user, the end user, for example, I mean, you are not an end user, you are special, you are actually, you are learning how to use AZMAT System, so you are more like a developer. So you will be given all these AZMAT System passwords. So there are 4 particular passwords for AZMAT System, every single file. If you wish, you can use. One is that when you open a file, you need a password, or else it will only let you open it in read-only mode. So that means you can open it and you can look at it, but you can't change it and save it in with the same file name. It won't let you do that. Or you can open a file with read-write access. So it will ask for the right password, WRITE, not RIGST, correct means. So it asks for the read-write password. You need to enter that. You also have a worksheet password. So a particular worksheet you can change things, cells, or the last one is the workbook password. So it's for the, so you will learn all these files, how they are, and all these 100 files I have here saved within AZMAT System. You will learn you learn all the passwords I have, a very simple way of remembering. I'll show you. You won't even need to write it down even. You will learn. You will be able to follow all the files, what they are. We'll go through another session. So we'll stop it now. We are getting close to the 90-minute limit I've set for each of these Excel AZMAT System tutorials. We are almost there. So we'll go through just a couple more minutes. So just to recap, you will have all the passwords for all the files given to you when you get the system. And there's a very simple way of remembering, which I'll go through. There are program files and there are user files. So they have a different passwords, but all program files are given the same password, and all user files also have the same way of remembering the passwords. And you can do various things. You can, while you're using AZMAT System, you're free to use any of these Excel commands. It all works. You can use Excel if you like to open and close other files if you want. But if you're using any of the Excel system files, I would advise you to use Excel commands to open and close files. That way you have Excel system will be able to undo some of the things if you make a mistake. Okay, so now for now we will go back here. It's 90 minutes. We're given a set time, so we'll stop it now. And to stop it, I can now, you can see that I'll just save it here. Last time I saved it was 3rd of July, 12:33 a.m. If I now save it, as you notice, the calculation time is still the same. I'll save it now. So it was 12:33 a.m. Save it. Utility menus. Save as my data file. So instead of 12:33, now is 1:37 a.m. So we've just gone just over 90 minutes. No, not 90 minutes. 1 hour. Yes, this particular one I had started at 1 hour. So I'll stop it right now. This particular session. We'll go through I think some other time later on. I had actually saved this data file just over at 12:33 a.m. Okay, so see you again on the next tutorial. So I'll stop it now, come out of AZMAT System by using the J menu and saying quit AZMAT, do not save any files. To quit that, I'll come out of it. I won't use it right now. I'll stop the actual Excel, this tutorial. So goodbye. Hope to see you again in a future tutorial.